Jeffrey O'Brien, 45, of Waukee, Iowa. Robert Marzan, 54, of Sacramento, California. Cody Cork, 35, from Lakeland, Florida. Nicole Amore, 39, from White Bear Lake, Minnesota. Noah Tietjens, 42, from Bellevue, Nebraska. Declan Cody, 20, from Des Moines, Iowa. Benjamin Pennington, 26, of Glendale, Kentucky. John A. Klinner, 33, of Auburn, Alabama. Ariana G. Savino, 31, of Covington, Washington. Ashley B. Pruitt, 34, of Bardstown, Kentucky. Seth R. Koval, 38, of Mooresville, Indiana. Curtis J. Angst, 30, of Wilmington, Ohio. Tyler H. Simmons, 28, of Columbus, Ohio. Sorfly Davius, 46, of Queens, New York. Saul Fabian Gonzalez, 26, of Pullman, Michigan. And Emmett Wilfred Goodridge Jr., 40, of Roseville, Minnesota. These are the names of the Americans who have died overseas while serving in the military over the last year. And there are dozens more who died in accidents or by their own hand. These are the new names we honor on Memorial Day tomorrow. And our hearts also hold others today who have died in war this year. People killed in war in Iran and surrounding countries, Gaza, Ukraine, Burma, Sudan, Congo, Israel, the Maghreb region of Africa, and in other places. Our hearts break for the loss of human life, and we pray and work and hope for peaceful resolutions to conflict in our world. And we hold in our hearts our beloved dead as well, the ones we knew and loved and lost. Our hearts are big enough to hold all of this loss, all of this grief. So come, let us remember together. Come, let us grieve together. Come, let us worship together.
Indeed. Welcome to all of you to this important service, Memorial Day service, and to our Zoom patrons, our Zoom congregants, thank you for showing up. People's Church is a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association, and we share many values, and we also come to the table with our differences. We are challenged to do our own looking for what matters to us most and what we think matters to other people, to all creatures, and to the world, the environment, and then say what it is that we care about. And from these questions and answers, we come together in community. Here you are invited to bring your full identity, your joys and sorrows, your openness to what is around you into community each week. Please do not hide or erase any part of who you are. It's what makes us whole. Visitors, talk to people. If you'd like, you can help yourself to any of the pamphlets in the foyer. And welcome again.
As we begin today, a few announcements. We are halfway through our voting period for the annual congregational meeting. So if you are a church member and have not yet voted, please vote. You should have received your ballot either by mail or email, and votes will be tallied a week from tomorrow. So get your votes in if you haven't. Due to the rain expected this afternoon, the scheduled work party at Diane Melvin's home is postponed until June 7th. Tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. in room L1 is our monthly yarn group. Bring your projects and join in conversation. And next Saturday night is our game night and potluck. So bring food and a game to share and gather here in this room for an evening of fun and connection. It begins at 5 p.m. And now an announcement about our upcoming White Elephant sale.
Sharon, I'm here. I'm here.
What are you doing in a shark costume, Donna, what are you doing in a shark costume?
Well, Tim told me to wear it. The chicken, Tim the chicken.
Honey, no. He said to put the costume in the White Elephant sale. You didn't have to wear a costume today. That's supposed to go in the White Elephant sale.
Really?
Yeah, it's okay. Because, remember, we're announcing the White Elephant sale is coming up June 27th, and what you can do now is starting to find things like a shark costume to put in the White Elephant sale. Usually we say no clothes, but costumes really aren't clothes, so I think costumes could work.
Okay. Well, what about my broken TV? Can I bring that?
Well, no, because here's two things. We can't take electronics, sorry, and number two, we don't want broken things because who would want to spend money on a broken thing?
My cat? Can I bring my cat?
Oh, no, you could put a sign that said...
I'm just kidding.
Okay,
I never
no
do that.
cats.
Never.
No cats.
I love my cat.
Things that we want are like kids' games, kids' toys.
Books?
Books go really well.
Yeah.
But let's go, if we bring games and puzzles, let's make sure all the pieces are there too, right? Because, I will say I've gotten a puzzle back here and did it, and one piece was missing. I was not happy. Anyway, so usually as a rule, we say no clothing, no exercise equipment, no TV or computers, or large furniture, just because those things usually don't sell. And then afterwards, those of us that are left have to do something with all of that. So right now, just start to be gathering things. We will start accepting donations on June 11th, and there will be signups.
And when is it again? I forgot.
Saturday, June 27th.
Got it.
All right, and yeah, no costumes. Oh, wow.
Good morning. I invite you all to rise and body your spirit to sing our opening song together. This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for their lands are and mine. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover, leaf, and pine. You can hum along. But other lands have sunlight too, and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine.
At this point, I would like to invite our chalice lighter up to help light our chalice. Today's reading for the chalice lighting is by Fulgence Njijimana, who is the founder of the Burundi UU Church in East Africa. When strangers meet, endless possibilities emerge. New experiences, new ways of understanding, and new ways of taking action. When strangers meet, each pays special attention to the other. Each is called to serve something larger than the self. Today, this morning, let's light the chalice for openness, for willingness to grow, for rich curiosity, and for common purpose.
In addition to those of us gathered in this room, there are 23 connections to our Zoom congregation this morning. And some of those folks have lit chalices alongside us on Brook Drive, in Parkview Hills, the Vine neighborhood, in Galesburg, on 131, Millwood neighborhood, hopefully that's a metaphorical chalice, Oshimo, and in Marshall, Michigan. What a gift it is to be together in time and in spirit, even when we're not all in the same place. I would now like to invite our children forward for a story. Good morning. I'm so glad you're with us today. I'm so glad you guys are with us today. I know. I think there were so many families who were working so hard to get kids to the OWL program over the last little while that they decided to take a day off. So we're a little low in kids, but I'm so glad you're here. So I have a story, and it's about a queen on an island. She was the queen of the whole island. What would you do if you were the king or queen or ruler of an island? Do you have any thoughts?
Do whatever I want.
Whatever you want, okay. No? Any other thoughts? No? Okay. Well, one day this queen was having a meeting with her advisor, the person who gave her advice. And the advisor said, "Queen, we need to do something. The people on the next island over, they are our enemies. And we need to not have enemies if we're going to be safe." And so the queen said, "Advisor, what do you think we should do about our enemies?" And the advisor said, "Well, we should gather up our strongest people and take them to the other island and fight until those people are not our enemies anymore." Do you guys think that's a good idea?
No.
You think you?
I think a boo.
So, okay, so some thumbs up, some thumbs down. What do you guys think?
There has to be a more peaceful way.
There has to be a more peaceful way. Okay. Any other thoughts? No? Okay. And the queen says, "I'm going to have to think about that. I'm not sure that's the right idea to go and fight." And so she did. And the next day, the advisor came back to talk to the queen again, and he walks into the queen's room, and she is there having tea with the queen of the other island.
What?
What? I know. And the advisor says, "Queen, what are you doing? You can't have tea with our enemies." And the queen says, "Well, you thought that we should get rid of our enemies by fighting with them. But I think you can turn an enemy into a friend, and they are not your enemy anymore." So they had tea and they talked. They commiserated about how challenging and wonderful it is to be the queen of an island, and found they had a whole lot in common. And by the end, they weren't enemies anymore. They were maybe on their way to being friends. So you were right. There was a more peaceful way. You called it. So thank you all for helping me tell the story, or whatever it is that's happening over there. And you guys get to have all labs today, which is going to be so great. So we're going to sing you and any other kids in this room off to classes and learning and growing.
Go forth in peace in search of wisdom, with love to guide you on your way. And may the joy of life surround you wherever you may go. Go forth in peace in search of wisdom, with love to guide you on your way. And may the joy of life surround you wherever you may go.
People's people are generous people. And my favorite is when I see this generosity show up beyond the walls of our congregation as people are living their values out in the world. So on Thursday, I was working from home and had to get to a meeting. And I came outside to my driveway and saw that there was a car broken down directly in front of my driveway. There was no moving. The wheels were not like this, they were like this. And so I started trying to figure out how to get where I needed to go and how to manage this moment. And a church family was driving by, and they had stopped and talked to the person with the broken car and said, "Is there anything we can do?" And he said, "No, the tow truck's on the way, we'll figure this out." And then I yelled from across my yard, "But there's something you can do for me." And so the Wilsons, Maggie and Dave, took me to my meeting because they had stopped to see how they could be generous when someone was having a much harder time than I was, as their car was broken. And it benefited me, but it was also just beautiful to see someone slowing down to check on a stranger and say, "Is there anything I can do to help?" So that is one of the things we try to practice here. And every once in a while I get to catch one of y'all in the act, and it fills my heart with joy. So this is where I invite you to continue to be the generous people that you are. The offering will now be received.
We are not our own, earth forms us, human leaves on nature's growing vine, fruit of many generations, seeds of life divine. We are not alone, earth names us, past and present, peoples near and far, family and friends and strangers, show us who we are. Therefore, let us make thanksgiving, and with justice willing and aware, give to earth and all things living liturgies of care. Let us be a house of welcome, living stone upholding living stone, gladly showing all our neighbors we are not our own.
Would you please join me in giving thanks for all that sustains us? From the countless gifts we each have been given, gifts of life and love and sustenance, we bring these small portions to share in the works of love which none of us can accomplish alone.
People's Church is a community that supports one another. One of the ways we do this is when we gather, we take time to lift up the joys and sorrows and other milestones of our lives. So if you have something you wish to share with our community this morning, if you're with us on Zoom, please type it into the chat box and I'll read it in a few moments. If you're here in person, I invite you to come forward, place a stone in our bowl of water, and speak briefly if you so choose. And remember to tell us your name. And treat the microphone like it is a ice cream, just right up close. I'm now placing a few more stones for all of the joy and sorrow we're holding quietly in our hearts today, the joy and sorrow in our wider community and our wider world. Sources of reason and radiance, sources of courage and compassion, keep watch with those who work or watch or weep this day. May the suffering be soothed, may the weary find rest, may the sick be tended, may the dying and those who love them find peace, may the joyous be shielded. May all of us know we are wrapped in a love that surrounds us always, a web that connects us to all that exists. Each week, we bring our joys and sorrows to this community, so that our sorrows may be carried with the support of others and our joys may be magnified. On this Sunday before Memorial Day, there is one great sorrow we collectively share. The sorrow of for those individuals in the armed services who lost their lives in war. Today we remember them and we grieve their loss. We remember those who joined the armed services by choice and those who had no choice. We remember those who fought in wars with just cause and those that had no just cause. We remember those who sacrificed their lives for wars they believed in and those who sacrificed their lives for wars they did not. We remember those who have gone missing and were never found. We remember those civilians who died as collateral damage in wars. We remember the loved ones those lost have left behind. We pray for world leaders that they make wise choices that prevent wars. We pray for those around the world who are currently suffering the ravages of war. We pray for the peacemakers who strive for the end to many conflicts around the world. We remember, and we pray for peace.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
First reading today is from a speech by Black American orator and abolitionist Frederick Douglass. The speech was given on Decoration Day, which is a precursor to Memorial Day, in 1871 at Arlington National Cemetery. In it, he reflects on how to best remember those who fought in the Civil War. We are sometimes asked, in the name of patriotism, to forget the merits of this fearful struggle and to remember with equal admiration those who struck at the nation's life and those who struck to save it. those who fought for slavery and those who fought for liberty and justice. I am no minister of malice. I would not strike the fallen. I would not repel the repentant, but may my right hand forget her cunning and my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth if I forget the difference between the parties to that terrible, terrible, protracted, and bloody conflict. If we ought to forget a war which has filled our land with widows and orphans, which has made stumps of men of the very flower of our youth, which has piled up a debt heavier than a mountain of gold, swept uncounted thousands of men into bloody graves, and planted agony at 1,000,000 hearthstones. I say, if this war is to be forgotten, I ask in the name of all things sacred, what shall men remember? The essence and significance of our devotions here today are not to be found in the fact that men whose remains fill these graves were brave in battle. If we met simply to show our sense of bravery, we should find enough on both sides to kindle admiration. In the raging storm of fire and blood, in the fierce torrent of shot and shell, of sword and bayonet, whether on foot or on horseback, unflinching courage marked the rebel not less than the loyal soldier. But we are not here to applaud manly courage, save as it has been displayed in a noble cause. We must never forget that victory to the rebellion meant death to the republic. We must never forget that the loyal soldiers who rest beneath this sod flung themselves between the nation and the nation's destroyers. If today we have a country not boiling in an agony of blood, if now we have a united country, no longer cursed by the half-hell-black system of human bondage, if the American name is no longer a byword and a hissing to a mocking earth, if the Star-Spangled Banner floats over only free American citizens in every quarter of the land, and our country has before it a long and glorious career of justice, liberty, and civilization, we are indebted to the unselfish devotion of the noble army who rest in these honored graves around us.
Our second reading is a passage from See No Stranger, a book by contemporary Sikh American activist and filmmaker Valerie Kaur. What does it look like for a nation to grieve together? I'm not talking about the routine rituals of grief, singing the national anthem, lowering the flag, firing rifles into the air, or the stilted offerings of thoughts and prayers. I am talking about sitting with pain together, modeling how to do that in public view, reflecting quietly on our deepest values and mourning the dead, all of the dead. It requires acknowledging the ways historically oppressed people continue to suffer, and the ways people with good intentions continue to benefit from that suffering. It requires witnessing the pain of trauma without trying to control or colonize or minimize it, then listening and continuing to listen. Soothing words are not enough. Not when trauma has traversed centuries. But if we are present to pain, if we sit together in the rooms of the heart, curtains drawn, and grieve together, we can begin to ask, how how do we fight for one another? America's greatest social movements for civil rights, immigrants' rights, women's rights, union organizing, queer and trans rights, farm workers' rights, indigenous sovereignty, and Black lives were rooted in the solidarity that came from shared grieving. First, people grieved together, then they organized together. Often they sang and celebrated together. We sang our grief to clean the air of turbulent spirits, writes the poet Joy Harjo. This is not the dominant narrative of American history, but if you look closely, you can see many stories of solidarity. In response to great violence or injustice, there are people who rush to bury the dead, cut down the lynching noose, or attend the memorials to say, "Not in my name." When people who have no obvious reason to love each other come together to grieve, they can give birth to new relationships, even revolutions. And our third reading is a last-minute replacement, so it's what's in your order of service, but not what's on the screen or if you're looking at a Friday order of service. Sometimes these things happen and I forget to tell the AV team. This is a piece of the long poem, Words in the Morning Time, by 20th century Black American poet Robert Hayden. And this is a long poem published in 1971, and it was written in response to the Vietnam War and the assassinations of Robert F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr. He writes, "As the victories are tallied up with flag-draped coffins, plastic body bags, what can I say but this? We must not be frightened nor cajoled into accepting evil as deliverance from evil. We must go on struggling to be human, though monsters of abstraction police and threaten us. Reclaim now, renew the vision of a human world where godliness is possible."
I invite you into a singing position to sing this song together. Where my free spirit onward leads, well, there shall be my way. By my own light illumined, I've journeyed night and day. My time-worn cloak I
I told our children a simple story this morning, a perhaps simplistic story of turning enemies into friends through the power of tea and conversation. We know that the world doesn't always work like that, even as I lift up that aspiration for our children. But here is a grown-up, true-life, more complicated version of that story. A story I learned through the writings of Howard Thurman, who's a 20th century Black minister and civil rights leader, a mentor to Martin Luther King Jr. and many other civil rights leaders. He writes about a U.S. military chaplain serving in the Pacific during the Second World War. The story happens after their ship was hit by Japanese bombs and a Japanese plane. Many people were killed. And Thurman writes, he had buried 60 American sailors who had lost their lives in the fearful bombing his ship had been given in the early afternoon. As the chaplain and his group of men started towards the landing crafts, one of the sailors said, "Sir, there's another body over there. He's Japanese." The chaplain looked while saying with just a slight tone of irritation in his spirit, "Another one?" He was tired, nauseated, and exhausted in body and spirit. The men were all for throwing the dead man in the bush, as they'd become accustomed to doing. The chaplain bent over to examine the body to discover that he was the pilot who had done so much damage. It was a moment of great searching of hearts, and his mind was made up. He called his men together and addressed them as follows. "Men, we must find the right thing to do this afternoon. The right thing to do in the light of eternity. He, the pilot, is a human being, and I find no hatred in my heart for him. And if you search your own hearts, you may not find hatred for him either. I ask you to help not because of any future you and I will have together, but I do want you to know that in a God-forsaken island in the Pacific, you and your chaplain, faced with the naked challenge to the essential humanness of mankind, sought a level of rightness that transcends the vicissitudes of both fortune and of circumstances." The chaplain continued, "I shall not give him a Christian burial because that would profane his own religious faith that differs from our own. But this we will do. Let us kneel and pray to our own God in the presence of this dead man as an act of reverence in our own hearts. This act will unite us beyond all conflict and all madness. And when this is done, we will bury him with a headstone that bears no name because we do not know his name, but with the simple inscription, Japanese pilot, and the date. Perhaps this act of reverence is an expression of the right thing in the eyes of eternity." Giving an honorable, reverential burial to an enemy is a powerful statement in the midst of war, struggling to be human in the hardest of circumstances. So maybe on this Memorial Day, we can't use the healing properties of tea and conversation to turn all enemies into friends. But we can remember that those we might be told are our enemies are human beings too. We might find unity and care beyond all conflict and all madness. To remember that every loss of life through violence is awful, no matter the details. That every person is precious, no matter the details. So on this Memorial Day, we remember those who have died in war in service to our country. And Unitarian Universalism, the tradition we practice here, is historically a just war tradition, just as in justice. And this means that we, in aggregate, though not all individually, recognize and take the theological position that war is sometimes necessary, that in certain circumstances, war is the most moral choice when all of the options are terrible. Let me be clear that I'm not saying you all have to sign on to this statement. That's not how we work here. We have a wide diversity of beliefs, and many of us hold different ethical views about war and its possible usefulness, its possible justness. We do not believe the same thing here, and this is one of the strengths of our tradition. And it is worthy today to explore the idea of just war, because just war is a fairly common idea in Christian traditions and those that grew out of Christian traditions like we did. The Roman Catholic Church shares this position. There's not a lot we agree with the Roman Catholic Church here, but they describe it in one of their catechisms, what it means for a war to be just. The damage inflicted by the aggressor on the nation or community of nations must be lasting, grave, and certain. All other means of putting an end to it must have been shown to be impractical or ineffective. There must be serious prospects of success. The use of arms must not produce evils and disorders graver than the evils to be eliminated. And the powers of modern means of destruction weigh very heavily in evaluating this condition. That is, so for war to be just, there's a number of conditions it needs to meet. War cannot be just if every other option hasn't been explored. Or war can be just if every other option has been explored and can't or won't be effective. War can be just if the damage the aggressor is doing is lasting, grave, and certain. A just war is a war that can be won. And a just war produces less evil than it eliminates. And all of this gets much harder to calculate because modern weapons are much more destructive than weapons were a century ago or 2 centuries ago. So it is clear, using this formula, that the war our country is currently engaged in, the war in Iran, does not meet this criteria. Despite how leaders might try to justify it using biblical language, it is not a just war. Other options weren't fully explored and engaged. It is unclear if the war can be won and what winning would even mean. It is unclear if this conflict will reduce the total net evil in the world. We must not be frightened nor cajoled into accepting evil as a deliverance from evil, the poet reminds us. So this is not a just war, and as a tradition that does not categorically condemn all wars, who brings some level of political realism to discussions of war, this is important to say. The 16 U.S. military personnel who have died, the 3,000 to 6,000 Iranians who have died in an unjust war, as well as the 1,000 to 3,000 Lebanese people who have died, the 100 Iraqis, and residents of Israel, Palestine, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Oman, France, Syria, and the Philippines have died in this unjust war. So on this Memorial Day, we remember those who have died in war, and we commit and recommit to using what power we have to make a more peaceful world. We remember those who died in their specificity. American Nicole Ammer was known for her sarcastic sense of humor, and I had a child graduating from high school this spring. American Noah Tietjens had just become trained as a martial arts instructor and was planning to start teaching classes and maybe start up his own dojo once he returned from deployment. Lebanese paramedic Hassan Badawi was always the first to rush to help someone, and he was killed while carrying a patient on a stretcher. Iranian Raha Zarai was only 7. She was one of the girls killed in the bombing of the school on the first day of the war. Her aunt describes her as silly, full of energy, always laughing, singing, and making up little poems. She had Hello Kitty wallpaper and carried a unicorn backpack to school. She wanted to be a dentist when she grew up. Saleh Ahmed was a Bangladeshi man who was working in the United Arab Emirates as a water delivery man. He sent money home to Bangladesh every week to care for his wife and his 4 children. And I could keep going. All of these war dead, our lives cut short and communities grieving. And we can grieve all of it. As Valerie Kaur writes, it is time for sitting with pain together, modeling how to do that in public view, reflecting quietly on our deepest values and mourning the dead, all of the dead. It requires acknowledging the ways historically oppressed people continue to suffer and the ways people with good intentions continue to benefit from that suffering. But if we are present to pain, if we sit together in the rooms of the heart and curtain drawn and grieve together, we can begin to ask, how do we fight for one another? When people have no obvious reason to love each other, come together to grieve, they can give birth to new relationships and even revolutions. It is important to be together in grief, in the grief of this moment, and grief for the war being fought in our name. Not to make all grief the same, but to say, yes, we are human, muddling through this beautiful, broken, and baffling world together. Yes, our hearts are broken, maybe in different ways and along different fissures, but broken nonetheless. So on this Memorial Day, we honor our war dead, those in other countries killed in war, those who we love who have died this year, and all of the other losses and griefs we hold. There is something in me that yearns to rank and sort grief, have some sort of hierarchy of what grief is more important than which others. Someone dear to me died at age 95 this year. You'll see Gordon's photo in our slideshow in a minute, alongside photos you all sent us and photos of the war dead I named a few moments ago. Gordon got nearly twice as much living as the oldest of the war dead, more than 10 times as much as Raha, the little girl. And part of me wants to use some sort of hierarchy system where my grief for Gordon can't be as big as this grief because people were younger and who got a fuller life, and there's some sort of logical thing and I'm supposed to feel it in a certain way. And that's not how grief works. We know that. It doesn't respond to our logic, especially any direct attempts to direct it in a certain way. So I don't know if you ever feel that way, but instead of a ranking, I'm trying to make my grief a doorway, a passage towards a new kinship and a new way of being. So as I grieve, I know other hearts and other lands are breaking too. And I try in my grief to know that I'm linked to so many others who also grieve now too, across all barriers and all boundaries. Maybe the shared grief can be the source of something new. When people who have no obvious reason to love each other come together to grieve, they can give birth to new relationships, even revolutions. May it be so. May we make it so. Amen. So now we have a slideshow of some of those in our circles who have died this year, and that will be followed by an opportunity to light candles to honor our grief. We have our candles in our sand in the front. If you're in the room and want to participate, I invite you to come up the side aisles and move to the center and then go back to your seat through if that works for you. If you need to move in a different way, move in the way that works for you. If you're with us on Zoom, please type in the chat box that you want a candle lit, and I will do that during our closing hymn. So these candles are for those we love who have died, and for all the other grief we might be carrying, losses and endings of all sorts that we hold in our heart. So let us remember together.
I invite you one last time to rise and embody your spirit today, to sing our closing song together. My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real flow of him that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth, it liveth. What though the darkness round me close? Songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
To me, this table with these candles is one of the most powerful moments of our church year together. When the pain and the loss and the grief that each of us are carrying is made a bit visible and is held in common. So when the grief, the work of grief, the times of loss feel lonely, I invite you to remember this table that's kind of a fire hazard, that with candles melting all over the place, as a community where we are all doing this work of grief together. Let us go in peace and go in love.